And guess what? They're going to be looking around for those old convenient targets of where do we get the money. Now Bill's got a problem because he's got a bank, and Willie Sutton was right. But guess what? You're the equivalent of banks for politicians. The energy industry is a quick and easy target for people to come at for money. Oh, those windfall profits. Those intangible drilling costs. Those tax breaks for energy. And the other problem you've got is that you face an environment in which there are environmentalists who are instinctively against anything that's got something to do with hydrocarbons. This stuff that's going on, I've been in northeast Pennsylvania. The Marcellus is going to transform that state if they're smart. And lots of business leaders and community leaders are thinking about how they make certain that newfound wealth underneath their soil transforms their economy and modernizes it, and isn't simply squandered on things that aren't important and don't work and are the old style of politics. But the kind of stuff that's going on up there, and particularly like in New York, where the state officials are looking at the issue of how you extract from the Marcellus, and what Waxman and others are doing, this is in some degree instinctive of people who are just absolutely against hydrocarbons. They don't like them. It's a matter of almost science. It's not a matter of science with them. It's almost a matter of religious faith. And as a result, you're going to face some interesting times. Now, I think you're going to be able to persevere because, frankly, first of all, that's the kind of people you are in the industry you represent. But the other thing is that you're lucky that the Marcellus is around, because it now brings attention to a lot of people in the Northeast who had forgotten about the oil industry being born in Pennsylvania, that there is wealth under our ground and wealth that can enrich them. I went to speak to, of all places, a Republican Lincoln Day dinner in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And they had so many trucks driving around with Atlas or Chesapeake or XTO, you couldn't believe it. And lots of people are now getting nice checks for their farm or their rural property where they're going to drill in a well. And it has opened their eyes. I don't think it's an accident that it was a Hawaii congressman, Abercrombie, and a Pennsylvania congressman named Peterson who had the Drill Now caucus in the House. Abercrombie, because you go pay gasoline prices on your Maui vacation and you'll realize it's sort of hard to shoulder those bills on a regular basis if you don't have more increased domestic production that lowers prices. And Peterson, smart guy, thinking ahead, knowing that there might be some technology that sometime could get into shale or coal bed better, and saying this could be a source of wealth for our state. But you got to have allies like that in order to persevere in the years ahead, because they're going to become, there's going to be pressure for revenue. Mark my words, when the red ink proves impossible to tame and go away easily, they're going to be coming for you. This makes it some of the most interesting times in politics. I'm glad I'm not running campaigns, but commenting on campaigns. The question is, do I think the bill that goes to the Senate, the fix bill, the reconciliation fix bill, is going to have much done to it? And the answer is yes. Look, the Reconciliation Act was passed in 1974. Its official title is the Budget and Reconciliation Act of 1974. It is designed for a specific purpose, and that is to expedite consideration in the Congress, in the Senate, of adjusting two dials, adjusting the dial on pre-existing programs for spending. We're going to take a program that's been around for 80 years and move it on an expedited basis, make a decision whether we want to move it from, $82.3 billion to $90.4 billion for this year. Change that dial. Same with taxes, to adjust rates or provisions in existing tax law. And the idea was, let us move these kind of measures through the Senate faster and give a way for the Senate to consider these under a sort of fast-track authority. It was never designed and has rarely been used to create new policy. And when it has been used to create new policy, it has been policy in essence that has wide bipartisan consensus. This thing has no wide bipartisan consensus, and they're attempting to stuff into this legislation things that have nothing to do with adjusting the current dials for current spending programs. Let me give you just one example. You may not know this. Did you know in this health care bill that we nationalized student loan programs for college students? All private lenders, with one exception, are wiped out. You can no longer make a student loan with the federal guarantee and the federal support for that loan. It will now all be done by the U.S. government. So those of you with kids who are thinking about having to go get a college loan, guess what? Think about going and standing in line at the post office or dealing with the IRS. That's the kind of experience that's awaiting you. That's in the bill. And you know why it's in the bill? Because there is now a tax on students who require loans in order to go to college. And that tax is the government will borrow money from itself at 2.8% and lend it to students at 6.8%, and the 4 points of interest in between, guess what it goes for? Paying for the health care bill. $9.7 billion over the next 10 years. So I don't think that things like that are going to be able to be done in reconciliation, because somebody's going to stand up and make a point of order called a Byrd Rule point of order. Here, Robert Byrd of West Virginia, who is a, sort of a curmudgeon, and albeit a very liberal, big spending Democrat, nonetheless wants these things done in proper order. And the Byrd Rule was named after him when he was president of the Senate, because he said you cannot, the intent of the law, having been an author of the law, was not to allow you to create new policy, so you can stand up, and there'll be lots of those kind of objections. Now, they may try and overrule it, but I don't think they got the votes to overrule it. So we're likely to see lots of, and look, I hate to say it, one of the Byrd Rule, one of the things that may happen in that bill is they may strip out the Louisiana money. Now, look, I know this is unpopular. I'm in Louisiana. I'm not supposed to say it. You shouldn't be getting the $300 million. I know everybody says Katrina, but you got $120.7 billion from the federal taxpayers all across America for Katrina relief. And that $300 million in Medicaid money is going to poison the well for your state in the future. And if you think that you're getting $300 million money and it's free money, I want you to remember that they got $100 million stuck in that bill, defined in language so obscure that you wouldn't know what they were talking about, that gives $100 million to Connecticut for a new medical and dental school. They tried to sneak $600 million into the bill for Medicaid money for Vermont and Massachusetts. They got $100 and some odd million in there for a couple of hundred cases involving a Libby, Montana mine. This concept that you can get free money for Louisiana, and that's not going to stop every other state from trying to get free money. And guess who pays? Guess who's paying for that Connecticut facility? The people of Louisiana. We keep doing this. We keep putting in these earmarks and special provisions. The $100 million for Nebraska. Nebraska is 1/3 the size of your state. They got $100 million. Vermont, guess what? It's 1/7 the size of your state. They got almost as much money in there as you did. And these ideas that we're going to stuff these bills with things to buy off votes and to grease the wheels towards passage, and at the end of the day that your state is going to end up being a net winner of this thing, you're kidding yourself, because what it's going to do is enable everybody else to do this in bill after bill after bill after bill, and all of us as Americans end up paying the tab. If Louisiana is getting treated unfairly, adjust the formula so that everybody else in a like position gets treated that way. But the idea that Mary Landrieu got you $300 million, bless her heart for getting it for you, and that there's not going to be some price to be paid in the future by Louisiana when some other senator says, you know what, she got the deal, I can get that deal. Baucus got that deal for Libby, Montana, I can get this deal. Dodd got that deal for the hospital there, well, I can get that deal. Ben Nelson got that waiver for Medicare Advantage policies in Florida, I can get that for my state. And the cost of that eventually gets borne by everybody in America. How's that for coming and insulting the people of Louisiana? I'm leaving quickly for Florida.